We are yet to understand why they choose, an annual versus a monthly pay plan, and it's really interesting data for us. But again, we are still learning from our users.
Hello and welcome back to Developer Mode. Today I'm joined by Charlie and Eli, two co-founders who are earning money from their Chrome extension. How to successfully monetize an extension is something a lot of developers ask about, and so today I really want to focus on everything they've learned about how to build something users will actually pay for. Welcome both to the show. How are you doing?
We're very good. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you so much.
I would love to just hear a little bit about sort of what your product is and how it's going so far.
Yeah, so we build PrettyPrompt, which is a Chrome extension that sits on top of your AI providers, think sort of ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and we help you improve your prompt as you write it.
Nice.
And it's really, really easy to get started. Once you install the Chrome extension, people just press this improve prompt button and they get this small prompt that they wrote into a whole enhanced piece of text that hopefully gets them better results, and it's been really an interesting journey.
And sort of how's it going? Where are you at the moment? Sort of what's your journey been like so far, and what milestones have you hit recently?
So we recently passed 15,000 users, which is really amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I remember when we started this a few months ago, and we only been live as a product for a few months, to be honest. So it's been pretty fast.
So I think we started around about early June, and we've been going since then. And it started off as a sort of internal tool we were both using, and we thought it'd be a great idea to just launch this out and release it.
And the reason was because Charlie, who is actually the main technical co-founder from both of us, I deal mainly with customers, Charlie deals mainly with the product and the building. And I think that the good thing is we were building a separate product before, and internally we were constantly prompting and changing things.
It took up all our time.
It was super hard.
Should we just build something to solve this problem for us?
Which I think is a great learning. If you have a problem, just solve it yourself first.
And we released it, and it had such a good response. We decided to sort of burn the boats and go completely onto this, and I think it was a good decision since then.
100%. So since June, within the first week I remember of launching, we had about 3,000 users. Which is a pretty good milestone.
That's already a lot of progress in a short amount of time.
But again, we didn't launch trying to make money. Again, it was an internal tool. And we wanted to almost like validate if people would first of all use it, and second of all want to pay for it, because there's no point to build something no one wants. It's like everybody talks about like the main reason why products fails are not because of the product, are because customers don't want, maybe they don't get it, which is completely fine.
It doesn't find the product market fit.
Exactly.
So did you find that users were actually willing to pay for your extension?
So in the when we first launched it, it was completely free to use. But within about a week, we launched it around about the start of June.
4 days.
About 4 days.
Based on the email.
4 days based on the email. We got an email from a user saying, we really want to pay for this. And that was kind of like the gold standard for saying, okay, we should really implement a payment provider.
Yes.
And again, it was part of validation. It's like level 0, level 1, level 2. Like we were still in level 0, and we are now in level 1 or 2. No more than that. It gets harder and harder and harder. But the fact that someone emails you and say, hello, I was trying to subscribe and potentially pay for the service, is like, we should have a paywall.
We should get on this as a priority.
And we talk about sort of adding a paywall as something you just sort of decide to do and then it's done. But I know realistically, like there's a lot of work and a lot of complexity to handling chargebacks and maybe refunds. So sort of upgrades even. Yeah. How do you handle all of this?
So I think we started off. Okay, what's the most basic way we can do this? And that's really taking a payment from a user, sending them to a checkout. So we just integrated with payment provider Stripe, and then we linked that to our database, and then that would update the user just as a flag which says is paid.
Okay.
Really super basic. There was no way to, refunds. We did that all manually. Upgrades, we did that all manually.
When they would pay, I would send them a message because we would get a notification, and I would see someone paid. I would go manually to send them an email. There was no automated email in the beginning. I was like, "Welcome to PrettyPrompt Pro." No, there was no that.
Yes,
so I was like, "Hey, I'm Eli. I'm one of the co-founders. I'm super excited to welcome you, and thank you so much for paying. If you have any issues, let me know."
So if you got an email in what sort of the first weeks or months of PrettyPrompt, then maybe it was directly from you.
And it's still from me because I message people directly, and fun enough, even technical founders should, and not that this is for everybody, but like should feel that sometimes part of building a product is not building, but it's actually talking to the people, and like Charlie does support.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big thing. I think all engineers should do support. They should get on a call with the customer, and they should really feel like, okay, if the customer is asking for a certain feature,
why?
Why are they asking? Why are they asking for it? Dig a little bit deeper. Don't just build it, but understand. Okay, what is the underlying principle as to why they want feature X?
Yeah,
and can this be solved in a maybe not even a automation way? Is this something that isn't even a problem to start with?
Yeah,
and going back to kind of like the payment flow, we put together this early on to understand how we would do it. And we came up with literally kind of like this 4-step, which is from the extension, you have this button that says upgrade.
Yeah.
Which you can click anytime, but it would kind of like come to the front once you hit the limit that we are testing. What is the limit that the user wants to upgrade? And that would take you directly to a checkout in the very beginning.
Yeah, so it'd take you to a checkout, and then you'd have like a webhook that would call sort of your super base backend, and then update the tier on the. It's actually on the Chrome extension. It wasn't even on the backend, right? We only logged when you get paid.
Okay.
So we sort of capture the customer ID. So if there were any problems on our payment provider, we had some kind of indication of who they are.
Something interesting with Chrome extensions specifically is when they would come back from that payment into the Chrome extension, we would reopen the pop-up, which is kind of like on the top right corner of your browser to refetch, and make sure that that is updated. And make sure that now they appear as pro.
To get like the latest payment data from your server or wherever you need to check.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So every time that you kind of like upgrade and change your tier, that gets reopened.
Yeah. I think making sure that flow is works quite well is important because there's nothing worse. You've paid, you've given over your debit card details, you've paid for something,
and then nothing happened.
Nothing happened. So you have to then email them, and it's like, so we really tried to test that to make sure, it really does work flawlessly. So there's no kind of break in what they're doing.
Yeah. I think that's where customer support becomes really important. I think if you have an issue and you get back to someone really quickly and say something went wrong with our system and we're going to fix it, then all is good. The longer you leave it, the more users start to think, maybe they did just take my money and something is not right.
Exactly. You want to keep that kind of almost sort of asynchronous communication as opposed to just synchronous. And I think that's maybe worked quite well for us.
Yeah, and we've spoken in the past, and I think something we all agreed was there just isn't much data for developers to aspire to around sort of what's possible with extensions and what like size of an audience can you reach, how willing are users to pay for extensions. So I'm curious, are there sort of any numbers you can share, any insight into sort of what you found is possible and what you think is realistic?
Yeah. So over 15,000 users right now, and within the first 60 days, so we got a user, we launched. That was kind of like first stage.
Yeah.
Second one was what Charlie said, which is
getting someone to ask to actually pay for it.
Exactly. So like ask to pay. Great. Tick. So very quickly.
And then afterwards, we actually got some sort of it was like TikTok organic growth. From just people building videos, whether it be on YouTube, TikTok, or wherever. And that was also an amazing kind of validation for us because we didn't ask these people to do it. They were just like, this is such an interesting product. We really like to do it. And that sort of drove even more growth with it.
Yeah, it's a nice cycle where maybe a creator feels like, if I share this and this is useful to my audience, and of course it's useful to you because it brings you an audience.
Exactly, but I think that the very first thing is we all as builders are trying to think about what the market wants and like what is the big opportunity, and I think that is a great way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But we took almost like the counterintuitive way of doing it, and it's easy to say now, when you're in the moment, you don't think about I'm doing the opposite. No.
Yeah.
But right now, looking back, we built something that we wanted. There was no like big audience.
Yeah.
We actually launched on Charlie's birthday.
Yeah,
It was a Saturday.
I was actually in Greenwich Park.
Oh, nice.
Having a
Yeah.
pizza, and then suddenly
Slack.
our Slack notifications started going off. Funnily enough, we later that day we actually got kicked out of Slack, which has never happened before in any other company I've been in.
Yeah.
So we had to switch very.
But why did we get kicked out of Slack?
So we got kicked out because we had too high rate limits on our
Okay.
kind of analytics channel.
And you were posting like every time there was a new user, or
So given that it was a new product, you never know what to track, so you just try and track everything.
Yeah.
And
And
usually,
we were getting the notifications on Slack essentially.
like every single second, you were getting like 10, 20
Like-
notifications.
Like for example, sorry, but like we just got like a customer like upgrading and sending some feedback. So like it's really, really useful because you get it real
you're
time.
really tapped into sort of what's happening and how
Yeah.
things are doing. Yeah.
you
But
really.
then we got rate limited.
We got rate limited, and then we had to get kicked off of Slack. So it was only for about 24 hours. But
Yeah.
it was a lesson to be like, okay, this is something people want, they want to pay for, and yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of a little bit of metrics, so we started without the paywall. Within the first week, people sent kind of like these emails and messages with a lot of requests, lots of questions, a lot of stuff that is like fluff. Oh, I love this. That's no one cares about that. What you want is actually what is not working and why they care, why they like it, not that they like it. Tell me why you like it. What is the single most important feature or capability or unlock that this product does for you?
Yeah.
If you tell me that, then we know where to double down. And if you tell me what doesn't work for you, we also know what we need to work on. So it's like kind of like the good and the bad, not the neutral that no one cares.
I mean, it's nice to get that neutral feedback, but it's just not very useful for building a product.
But but for other developers, like don't seek approval.
Yeah.
Seek for want to pay. That I think that is very different from like I love this but.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's you can have a lot of reviews giving you such positive things, but ultimately reviews are great.
Yeah.
But if you want to monetize a product, the only hard evidence is, are people willing to pay for this?
Yeah.
That's where
Putting the credit card.
putting
And
your
so
money where your mouth is.
Were people willing to pay? What did you find?
They were. They were really willing to pay. It immediately solved their problem. I think one of the big things we did, which worked out quite well, we didn't think was super big at the start, was the onboarding was really seamless. Like it takes about 10-20 seconds.
There was no onboarding.
Yes,
It's like add to Chrome.
it takes about 10-20 seconds to get any kind of value from it, so they can immediately see where it is. And what was quite interesting is then we started adding an annual plan to this.
Yeah.
And we just threw that out. We thought, we'll see
what happens if we can, give them a discount for like as usually, SaaS tools, are doing.
For say, you get 2 months free over the whole year, and then suddenly loads of people were signing up because they were like, we want to take advantage of this.
I learned my metrics as a founder, so I want to say this. 25% of users today pay for annual subscription, which is huge.
That's amazing.
25%, that's a quarter of our user base, which pays for annual. Now, we are yet to understand why they choose, an annual versus a monthly plan, and it's really interesting data for us. But again, we are still learning from our users. But we definitely know that it works because we didn't have it. Like Charlie said, we added it. Now 25% of users are choosing annual versus the other one. And as a startup, as a small company, this is huge to be able to take this, because you don't just take the money, you take their trust for a year. So it's a lot.
And I imagine the user then feels more invested to continue using the product for a year and sort of see it through while they have the premium access.
Absolutely. I think one of the other big things is getting users who are engaged and willing to give feedback and deeply think about, okay, is this actually solving my problem? And if they are invested for the entire year, that's really, really helpful.
And we try to do, like yesterday we did 3 calls with different users. We try to do every week since that, beginning of June, calls with customers to understand exactly what's working, what is not working, what they like, they don't like. And not only it helps to create a cycle back to the product, but actually it makes them be more invested in the product themselves, which means it drives more word of mouth, which means you have more probabilities of charging more money eventually, because they became your biggest advocates. So we actually haven't spent $1 on marketing so far.
That's amazing.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. And I think a lot of developers will be watching this and will be thinking, I would be more than happy to do the customer calls. I would love as much feedback as I can get, but I just don't know how to even get in touch with the customers who could give me that feedback. So do you have any advice for sort of how to initiate that sort of thing?
I think so for your existing customers, make it very easy to contact you. So
sorry, and when they say you, it's you. It's not like desk or like a team. No, put your name, put your face, make sure people talk to a human.
And make it very easy for them to contact you. And reply quickly. I think that's a really underappreciated thing. Sometimes you take 24 hours to reply. If you can reply within 10, 15 minutes, and you
60
do that,
seconds. 60 seconds.
Realistically. And if you can consistently do that and you can solve a bug for them within, let's say, 30 minutes, suddenly they're like, oh, this is fantastic, because they're not used to that kind of customer support, because whether it's a big company, there's so many layers that has to go through, but it's almost like very refreshing when you have some kind of very, very quick customer service, and it's to the direct founders. So they don't have to go to management to ask, can we add this? They can just go, okay, I can commit this straight to the GitHub repo, test it, and it's already live in production, and you can test it with them and say, is this fixed for you? And they say yes, and they give you a fantastic review.
That's really cool.
And I think don't be ashamed of asking them for a review, because especially for Chrome extensions, reviews are extremely powerful, because they are first and foremost center in your page of your application. So if it worked out, ask them for a review. It's like, hey, thank you so much. I'm glad that it's working now. Would you mind leaving a review for us? And 5-star review or not, but ask them for an honest review, because they also will say what they like or they don't like. And that is really, really powerful, because people are willing to share their experience, whether it's good or bad usually, but they're willing to share their experience.
And I think this is an important clarification, because I've sort of seen some misunderstanding here. We have Chrome Web Store policies against sort of manipulating reviews or asking for dishonest reviews, but reviews are really important. And if you have a customer who's had a good experience, encouraging them, please just leave an honest review of how you found the product. Like, that's completely fine, and you should absolutely do that.
And I think you ask it exactly like that. Please leave an honest review of your experience. That's it. There's nothing more to ask or to say there. And, that's the best way to get people back into the tools.
And I think given that it's almost getting harder to trust what people say on their landing page, right?
Just on the internet in general.
On the internet in general. So if you, the fantastic thing about Google reviews is linked to someone's name. So it's linked to the date they did it, and it is on the Chrome Web Store website. So we actually link it directly there. These aren't just reviews someone has given us in an email. They're actual reviews that exist on the web store.
So touching a little bit of monetization and what Charlie just said. So we call that social proof. So social proof are reviews, what people say, all the logos and all the nice smiley faces and all these 5 stars in the, in the Chrome Web Store. So what we actually learned is we originally had this button that said upgrade for paying customers once they hit a limit. So the way that PrettyPrompt works is like you can try it without even logging in, which is an amazing kind of like idea that Charlie had, and it works amazingly, because you add to Chrome, you try it, you like it. Only after, if you want, you go to our free plan, which you get a limit per week. Great. If people need more and want to unlock all these amazing features, which are amazing on PrettyPrompt, they can click the upgrade button. Originally, we would take them directly to the payment page, which is just a checkout. we realized through our analytics that people were clicking but not upgrading. So we were like, what is happening there?
Yeah. So how do we kind of fix this or get some kind of information? So we added kind of like an intermediate page between there, so we could actually see, okay, if we give a load of features, what features do people want? We have those on the sort of pricing plans.
Yeah.
And the advantage
And social proof.
and social proof is also really a big thing, because if you see 10,000 other people are using this, you're not the first guinea pig.
No one wants to be the first one.
Right? No one
It's
wants
maybe worth explaining that in more detail. Like, what is encompassed when you say social proof? What does that mean in practice?
So I like to divide this in quantitative and qualitative. So quantitative is literally number of people who have left a review, number of good reviews, your star rating, essentially out 1 to 5, how many 5-star reviews you have. So we actually have over 90 5-star reviews.
And so that's anything you see on some sort of landing page or interstitial that says, this extension is trusted by this many
X
people.
number of people,
Yes.
a 4.9 over 5 on the Chrome Web Store. Like all those things are quantitative. Qualitative is actually the words people use to describe that review.
Yeah.
And you need both, because sometimes people don't trust just like, 100 great reviews. This is amazing.
Yeah.
They want something specific.
They want to
I
know
think
what
that's
they
important.
like.
Yeah,
It's
so
specific, yeah.
So yeah, the best reviews are not just I really love this. It's I really love this particular functionality. So
So funny enough, like someone else the other day left a review, actually yesterday on the Chrome Web Store, saying it used to take me 20 to 30 minutes.
Yes.
Now you're right. And now it
I know
takes
exactly
me
which one
something
you're
like-
talking about.
yeah.
People love a story, so that's so nice. Like,
It's
this is the problem I had. This is the solution. This is how
I
things
read that
change.
and I was like, wow. I sent to Charlie, the
Yeah.
screenshot, and I was like, this is awesome, because it shows that someone else find the value that we find from our tool.
Yes.
Without us knowing who this person is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
and they give actual numbers and time to it, so it's more quantifiable.
So that's the qualitative part of the social proof.
Yeah.
So when you're adding this, put it first, on the front of your website. Also, don't just rely on the Chrome Web Store, because you can control it.
Yeah.
But they can put it also on your website. And what Charlie was saying, which is the upgrade page.
Yes. Yeah, so and I suppose the other advantage of having like an in-between upgrade page is we all know with sort of Chrome extensions it can take some time to make any update, because you guys have a fantastic review process,
Which makes you really secure, which is a good thing for customers.
We try our best.
Yeah, we love it. It's good.
But sometimes you want to test some pricing things very quickly,
Yeah.
just to be like, okay, I have an idea, can I just very quickly test this? Or we've got suddenly an influx of users. Does this pricing structure work? And having an intermediate web page where you kind of control updating it very quickly, I think has benefited us quite a lot and helped us kind of get into that good maybe pricing structure. I mean, we're not there yet.
We're still learning. Like,
We're always experimenting, but
there is no. Sorry, I don't think that there is a linear path to your pricing and monetization strategy. I think that there is what works for you, what works for them, what works for the other person. Each app will have its own story.
yes.
But we learned that there is nothing better than just putting out there something and seeing what happens. It's better than strategy, it's better than research, it's better than talking to customers. The best thing is to have your own page where you can control what happens, you put it out there, and seeing that actually people pay.
Yeah.
That is, like Charlie said, the ultimate validation of making something that people want. So we recently also tested a medium plan. So you have your free, you have your pro, and then we added like a capped one every month, which is a little bit cheaper to see what happens. So you're giving options to the people. We have the annual, seeing what happens. People convert. Great, let's not touch it. So yeah, that's kind of like has been really interesting. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about internationalization. I think it's easy to build something that just works in English, but what have you found? Do you have users that are trying to use your extension in other languages, and are there interesting challenges you had to face there?
I think so, yeah. So when we first started, majority of our users were sort of English speaking.
Yeah.
But as we sort of grew, as we sort of got organic growth, we started getting people from all different places in the world.
Yeah.
And then suddenly we had to support all different kinds of languages. And we've got maybe some numbers on the sort of
That would be
languages.
really interesting.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the numbers follow usually when you get like a spike of users from, say, like Korea.
Yeah.
You know, usually is followed by someone, a creator, or some newsletter or a TikTok video that someone created on this. And it's really interesting to understand how the audience follows. So about 10 to 15% come from like Asia, like Korea, and this kind of like side of the world. We have 20% of users that are in Middle East, which is really interesting because it's a complete different language and we are an AI-based product. So we also had to figure out all the difficulties to kind of like translate these languages so they make sense to the user also.
I think so. That's really important. Like certain languages, unfortunately, are easier to process than other languages.
Okay, so the sort of the quality of the AI output is different depending on the language.
Exactly.
And we are all about improving the output. So we need to validate this.
And regardless of your language, you should be able to use it.
And then the majority of users are still English speaking, like the US, UK. However, Europe is huge. Like we had some users from the Netherlands the other day and Germany actually, that I had a call with them and I was talking to them and understanding what they use it for and all of this. And I don't think there's a correlation where they come from to what they use the tool for, but I think it's always interesting when you build the tool and you start to see all these different people coming from all the world. It's a really interesting journey.
Nice. And then I'm curious to ask a very technical question, but this is something that I've heard developers ask us before, and I'm curious for your perspective on. Everything in a Chrome extension is running client side, so sometimes users are worried, or developers are worried, that users might find a way to sort of circumvent the paywall that they have and get access to features that they shouldn't. Is that a problem that you have? Is that a problem that you've solved or that you think about?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So when we started,
I know what you're going to say.
So when we started, we integrated with Stripe, and that basically updated the user to basically say we have a flag which says is paid true.
Yeah.
Now, when you first started using us, if you jumped into the dev tools, you could switch that over.
Is paid false.
just change
and it's how we
flag.
tested.
We were testing that.
And we were like, oh, okay, it doesn't need to be super complicated. But as we grew and as we got more users, we needed to be a bit more sophisticated. So the way we kind of do it is, and it's the standard way you do it on web apps, which is the database is the source of truth.
Yeah.
Right. So technically you could jump into the dev tools and you could change it, but the moment you reload, it will revert back to your correct plan. And I think one really interesting thing, certainly with monetization, is you have different tiers of users, and that's always a hard thing. And I've never seen a sort of internal company really solve this fantastically because really it's just a matrix of your tiers and the features people have access to. But I think starting off really basic and accepting that it's not super secure in the sense users can get free stuff, and then validating that and then going over to being like, okay, now we're going to spend a week making this a bit more secure because we've got more users and there's more chance of this happening.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like it's very much just sort of picking your battles. Like to begin with, we just want users, and so we don't even need, as you said, to necessarily have the monetization working, and then we get the monetization working, but maybe it's possible to circumvent. And then kind of the last hurdle, once everything else is working, is maybe we can add some more checks and balances here.
Exactly.
I like to think about, like, as a founder or as a builder, as a developer, you need to earn the right to have that problem. So your first challenge is to just build it. The second challenge is to get people to pay. If you earn the right because someone paid, now you can worry about the next problem.
Yeah.
If no one is paying yet, then why would you worry about even the problem that is not there yet? So it's almost like earn the right first to unlock your problem. And it's like playing like Mario games, when
Exactly.
So you have your level and then you win against the big guy in the end of the level, but then the princess goes to the next castle, so you need to go to the next castle. So we think about building a product or a company in the same way. You have like levels, and each level gets harder because the problems get harder. But no point to jump to the next level if we haven't fix the first one yet.
And also I also think if a developer can circumvent your systems,
That's a good thing.
I'm impressed. I'm like, you can have it for free. I respect your curiosity of diving into those dev tools.
And I think it's usually the minority, right? Like most users who are using your extension aren't going to have that technical ability and aren't going to try and do that.
Which also shows, and we are a balance because we are like, the black and white of the two sides of the coin, but developers sometimes think in developer terms. Customers are not always developers.
Yeah.
Especially for a lot of Chrome extensions.
Yeah.
So don't think what is good for you as a developer might be good or the same way as a customer is thinking.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
I think we
were in a call with someone that we got them to open the dev tools and they were like,
it's like opening going into Narnia. Suddenly this entire world, and it's completely normal to us. But quite a lot of the time, I think you do have to consider there are things that a lot of other people may not know, and you can't assume that. So if you just ask them to, especially if you're in like a customer support ticket or something, you've got to be like very kind of basic and assume almost zero knowledge, I suppose.
I was just thinking about monetization. So in the first 60 days, in under 3 months, we actually hit the 10,000 users.
Yeah.
Right now we are in 15K, something like this. Within this first 60 days, we actually managed to get a conversion rate, because not every user is paying, which is also something to understand about, the way we build our tool, and many other Chrome extensions out there. It's a freemium model, they call it.
It's majority free users. Yeah. And then it's almost like you use those free users to make the product amazing.
Exactly.
And justify why would you pay for this.
Yeah. Do you have any sort of numbers for like what's a reasonable expectation for free users versus paid users?
So I've been researching a lot this from other tools out there beyond like extensions, like mass market tools.
Yeah.
And I think anything above a 3% conversion rate is so incredible. And of course, this is just like big numbers. It doesn't mean that it's right for every tool. So like, please don't quote me.
Yeah.
But it is really good if you get a tool that converts between 3 to 5%. We are actually just about 2. So not far, but
perfectly
also not there,
yes.
So we are still working on this, and that's why you need to test your pricing, your annual, your middle plan, your social proof, all these different things.
It's just a big kind of experiment you're doing.
Yeah.
You're constantly experimenting and see, okay, what dials and knobs work when you tweak them.
And I think also something really important is the non-scalable part of making your product monetize, to be able to make money from your product.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mumble my words. We are live here, by the way. And I think that the good thing is, if you see an email of someone from that signed up, send them a message. Send them an email. Send them a a Reddit message. Send them a LinkedIn message. Wherever your audience is. Hang out where your audience is. And I think this is kind of like a really underappreciated thing. But if you send them a message and you make sure that they know it's you, and not we don't have any automations in messages yet. We are small enough to be able to do it.
I think that's a really important point, in the sense, you probably don't want to rely too much on automation or AI
not at all.
A reply.
Be yourself.
Yeah, simply from the user's side, they could probably recognize an AI email, but also from your side, that you start to, like, we know users almost from their emails.
I know exactly what a specific user will ask for because I've been seeing, their messages beforehand.
You've already seen like the comment they left on Reddit and the Chrome Web Store review they left, and then you're like, oh, it's great to meet you over email.
And like a week ago, I saw that someone hit the free limit, and I sent a message to Charlie. It's like, upgrade is coming.
Oh, nice.
Upgrade.
It actually did come. It was a bit, it was almost like magic. But having that kind of almost first name basis, you understand your users, I think is really important.
And also it gives you an idea of what different type of users want from your product and which ones you should focus on. You don't build everything for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's actually the super hard thing, is not how to add features. Like, we can add features every day, all day, apart from when we're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
But
it's
really hard to know what not to build.
That is quite hard. Like, when to say no is really important.
But be honest to your customers. That's also part of making money from your app.
So
telling them, we are not working on this right now, but I really appreciate what you're saying. and I'll let you know if we build it and when.
Yeah. I guess the roadmap can always change. It might not be a priority now, but it might be a priority 6 or 12 months down the line.
Exactly. Yes.
And I think we originally saw a lot of kind of like at Gmail emails that were signing up, and then lately in the last 2 months we started to see a lot of more kind of like at company something.com kind of like joining and signing up and trying the tool. A lot of them are on easy to find because they are real people. It's not some whatever email. So you also start to learn what different requirements different, again, type of users need. So do these people at companies need the same that me, myself at home?
Yeah.
What do they use the app for? Do they need something for us to add so that they can use it as a team in a company? And that unlocks a whole new way of looking at a Chrome extension.
And how do you think about sort of that opportunity space between sort of consumer and enterprise? Because I think the wants are very different. Does one feel like a bigger opportunity? Is that product dependent, and like do you just pick one and focus on it, or do you try and split yourself between the two?
Yeah, so I think maybe starting off going, we're going to go to B2C or B2B might, I think maybe that might be a mistake in the sense, okay, have you built something useful first?
Yeah.
And then find out where
does it fit?
Yeah, where does it fit? So right now, like you could class us maybe as a consumer app, but really they're using it for business purposes.
So it's what we call a prosumer.
Yeah, prosumer. And then the idea is if they really like it and they find it's really useful for their business, they should expand to the rest of their team, to the rest of their business, because then that would make them all more productive.
Yeah.
And I think at least internally, we always think about growing this exponentially. And that's what we want to do with PrettyPrompt, because we see where at least the opportunity is going internally.
Yeah.
But I think even though we want to get every company in every organization and every enterprise with a B2B deal with PrettyPrompt, it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Things are not magical. It's a lot of like unscalable, things. And I think we will never unlock that as a company, as a product, not just us, but anybody out there also. And until you unlock the user for a single user.
Yeah.
Unlock it for a person before you unlock it for a brand, because a brand is a bunch of people together. So like, I really like Brian Chesky, the co-founder and CEO of Airbnb. He says like, it's much better to have 100 people that love you than 1 million people that sort of like you. And that's always stuck with us, and it's always in our mind. Get 100 people that really love what you build. It's extremely difficult to do. If you do that, then you can scale to the millions and to everything else. But first make it, and we didn't talk about paying, we talk about loving. If you make someone love what you do, it's much easier. The payment is just like a small step.
Yeah. And I don't think we could have wrapped that up more perfectly. That's such a poetic way to end the episode. Thank you so much. I'm curious, if users want to sort of give your extension a try and to learn more, where should they go?
So they can go to prettyprompt.com. That's pretty-prompt.com, and they'll be directed to the Chrome Web Store, and you can install it. And like I said, you don't even need to sign up to use it. Once you click on it, it will take you directly to one of your AI providers, and you can start using it.
And any questions or any ideas, any thoughts, just hit us up online. You will talk with us.
We'll reply in 15 minutes.
That's a guarantee.
60 seconds.
This was kind of a different style of episode, asking the team here some questions, but I think it was really nice, and we really got to talk about monetization in detail. If you have further questions or other ideas of what you want to see, then feel free to leave them as a comment below. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Thank you both so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.